All right, for this RTFSC, we're going to check out Turbo Rails. So this is the integration between Hotwire. If you go to hotwire.dev, you can see what that looks like. Barely any mention of Rails here. I always complain about that. Um, this is like the flagship JavaScript layer for Rails, and there's no mention of Rails in here. All right, but if you go into Turbo Rails, there's obviously mention of Rails in here and the Turbo page and all that stuff. So this handles Turbo frames, Turbo broadcast, Turbo streams, all those things, and all these helpers. And what I want to do today is actually look at the source code of this thing and see what we can make sense of it. Another thing I often complain about is there's like very little documentation in here. So I actually find myself reading the source code a lot to figure out what the hell's going on inside of Rails when I'm trying to use this thing. All right, so if we crack open the source code for this thing, I immediately see app, which is telling me, hey, this thing is probably a Rails plugin. There's these different installer tasks in here, so we can install with, see, we have a rake file here. Where am I going? Engine. Engine is, so if you look at any gem that is a plugin for Rails, you're always going to find an engine, and this thing is a Rails engine. It's saying, hey, I'm a Rails plugin, configure all these paths. And this is all the stuff it's loading over here in app. So that's what's going on here. And then you have these initializer blocks that are labeled. I don't think these labels do anything. I think it's there so you can have before and after, but you can see here, before you set eager load paths, these are all part of a Rails initialization that you have to worry about. It's just setting up all this stuff. So it's setting up active job, it's setting up action cable and doing all these things to extend it. And you can see the entire list of things that it's extending, which is a lot. All right, so probably most of the stuff in here is in the helpers file. If you use turbo frame tag, you can see, and you'll use this quite a bit. We're passing in IDs, and it's able to get the action record identifier for it and the URL for the thing, and then it eventually creates a turbo frame tag with all these different things on it. Streams, probably the same idea. There's a tag builder for streams. Let's see where this thing goes. Maybe tag builders in here. Yeah. All right. So I'm guessing Turbo Tag Builder does quite a bit. Man, so many modules in here. This would actually make an excellent Flex component to rebuild it. All right. So we've seen these helpers before where you can say, hey, I have a turbo stream and I want to remove these things, and this thing will generate some HTML markdown that actually, if we look at the Hotwired website, we can get an idea for that. If I can pull up the docs here. Oh, I think learn more about turbo. Let's check out the handbook, turbo frames. I don't know. Let's see. Oh yeah, so this is the HTML that it's creating, right? It's saying, hey, there's a turbo frame here. If there's a DOM ID with this message on it, I want to do things to that. And it's saying, what? Replace the entire page. Where's the action? I don't know. I'm lost. All right, eager loading. This is not the thing I wanted to pull up. Anyway, you have these actions in the tag builder that generate this markup that are passed off to Turbo, and it handles that stuff on the client side. Debouncer. I didn't even know there was a debouncer in this thing, but sure, I guess that makes sense. Oh, that's in the models, and I was in the helper. Okay, all right. So anyway, these helpers are generating all these tags that we use. I find myself in here a lot to figure out what are these tags called, because as you can see, there actually is pretty good documentation in the code comments. Let's check out controllers. All right, so we do have some concerns, and it's saying, hey, if there's this header on this thing, turbo request ID, there's some special stuff that we have to do with it. Frame request. All right, so, ooh, this is interesting. So we have a layout called frame. Let's see what frame is. And that looks like a very, very basic kind of framing for the thing, an E tag and a frame. All right, so there's actually not a lot going on to that frame. It looks like it's just a very basic type of framing thing. So we looked at turbo streams. Again, there's a tag builder there. So this is so you can call that tag builder from the controller. Sometimes you will say like response to format.turbostream, and then you have to render turbostream, and you're typing out turbostream a bajillion times just to eventually get to replacing something. You might use that to like render a partial from the controller to like append a message to say a stream of messages. Or, you know, if you need to do any kind of manipulation for turbo on the I just lost my train of thought. All right, one thing I remembered I wanted to get to is this page morphs, because somebody asked me about page morphs on the, let's see, is it page? I don't know where page morphs are. This is where I get lost whenever I have to look for specific things. um, concerns, turbo. Actually, we should look at the models because this is where we're getting is these things called broadcastables. So whenever you change a model, something that you want to do is you want to broadcast out to all these different pages like, hey, um, I have this HTML for you that I need for you to apply to this turbo frame or something like that. Or in the case of page refreshes, which should be on here. Let's see, refreshes. All right, here's broadcasts refreshes too. And one thing you'll notice is there's always these like later things. So it's you can broadcast it now or it's saying later too. And what later does is it just throws that into a background job so that your broadcasting doesn't block the main process. If you're saving data, you don't necessarily want to have to like send out all of these notifications before your data saves. So this throws it in a job queue, which gets processed. I'm sure the Elixir folks would have fun kind of laughing at the Rails folks about just throwing everything in a background job. But this is how it's done. So this is what we're going to do. So the model is broadcastable. It does a lot of things. And it's calling this Turbo Streams channel thing, which in one of my Flex on Rails videos, I actually used this inside of a Flex component to um, like build this into a component. So in other words, I can create an instance of a component and then I can call broadcast on it and tell it where to broadcast the thing. Uh, yeah, we can see we have that here. It looks like it's a module. So you can include this into different things that you may want to broadcast. Maybe it's a component. Of course, we have JavaScript up here. I'm not going to jump into that. There's just a lot to get into. But I really would like to find that page helper method. So there's one that's like content yield head, maybe. I need to look for head because I know it's there. Provide head. All right, this thing. Great, and I have 2.5 minutes. All right, so if you call turbo refreshes with on a page as you're supposed to subscribe to page refreshes, this is using turbo page refreshes. Unfortunately, it won't just work if you only add that. You also have to have yield head because what this is doing, whenever you call this method and you're setting these meta tags up, and we can look at that. Actually, I'll zoom into here. Jump to file. Yeah, all right, so we're calling these meta tags here. But obviously, if we're calling these from a view, we don't want to put meta tags in the body of HTML, so we have to provide it to the head, and then we have to remember to call yield head from whatever controller it is. So this happens to me all the time if I'm using turbo page refreshes. I will call this thing from a page, why is nothing happening? Well, because it's only doing half of what it needs to do. It's providing it to the head, and you do have to call yield head from your layout or from wherever it is that you want to put these meta tags. It probably is going to be from within the head tag. But that's pretty much it. There's a minute and a half. Obviously, there's a ton of JavaScript. I could go through that. It's actually pretty well done. Like this is, I think, very readable in terms of what is going on. Are things connecting to WebSockets to listen for updates? There's some Turbo Drive things going on here. I think I see some Turbo Native in here somewhere. I am not sure where that went. But that's pretty much it. So this library is really just a ton of helpers. And at the end of the day, it's kind of setting up the JavaScript, making it so you can integrate that into Rails. Obviously, it is providing all these helpers. There's tons and tons of these helpers, view helpers. It's mixing things into the controller so they can read headers that Turbo needs to work and kind of deal with responses for that. And of course, there's model integration. So if you say there's a blog and you save it and there's a lot of posts, and you want to update all these counters, this will deal with sending all those signals out so that whatever it is you have that's listening knows that something was changed and it can update the page. That's it.